Hello there. I'm going to start today with a little bit of astrology for the end of June into the beginning of July because there's a few really potent and interesting things that are happening in terms of the energetic influence that will be going around. I thought it was worth talking about. I don't spend a lot of time diving into the astrology because quite frankly there's so much that it's overwhelming, but these are really specific and I also think that they could be incredibly helpful. So just to begin, going into again the end of June, I am going to be referring to my notes because I took a lot of notes, so if I look down a lot, that's why, but I don't want to miss anything. One of the biggies that I haven't talked about in a while, I haven't even brought it up, is Mercury is going retrograde on the 29th, and that will be in the sign of Cancer. We are in Cancer right now, and Mercury is retrograding into Cancer, or in Cancer, but this is a typical Mercury retrograde time, right? It's a roughly 3-week period of time, although there is 2 weeks of shadow before, which we are in now, and 2 weeks of shadow after. So we will be feeling it for, closer to 6, 7 weeks than just the three. But during a Mercury retrograde, it's an important time basically to slow down. And the reason that that's actually helpful, at least in my opinion right now, is mid-May through now has been really ramped up energy. So I'm sure maybe, it kind of goes along with moving into the summer, graduations and parties and Mother's Day, Father's Day, people getting ready for vacations, kids out of school, even traffic construction really ramps up in the summertime when the weather is decent. We've had a huge outbreak, at least here in Indiana and the Midwest here, of tornadoes and storms. So the energy is just very ramped up, and I can't promise, and I'm not even going to try to promise the Mercury retrograde would help any of those things, but what it does for us is it almost in some ways forces us to slow down in our own life and consider our steps more carefully. That is the time with all the RE words, right? Review and renew, and it's rejuvenate things. It's taking our foot off of the gas, which has been pretty frantic. We've been rushing ahead, probably really busy, probably very social. Our nervous systems are pretty wired right now. We've probably kept a very busy schedule. And this is a time to just slow all that down. And with it being in the sign of Cancer, the focus here is around home and family. And I dare say, even like defense. And I don't want to come across like this is fear mongering kind of thing. I mean, defense of this is a time, I mean, during any Mercury retrograde, it's always a good time to like back up your computer files, maintenance on equipment in your home, do the things. It's a great time for cleaning out closets, anything where when you're busy, you kind of overlook that. This is that time period to slow down and get our house and our affairs back in order, double check things. So the defense comes into play more like you don't want to lose something. A good use of this, I read somebody suggest this. I thought it was brilliant. This time period is a great time to say backing up family pictures. So if you're going through closets and you find family pictures and you may want to put them online so your whole family can access them. Just make sure the defense part of this would be protecting the physical picture by getting it online, right, into a cyber world somewhere. But also making sure that the people that have access to the shared drive online can't delete those pictures by accident. So it's just like fortifying your home, your internal life. That Cancer energy is very internal. So if this is a time to like find your strength again. You may feel very depleted and you may want to spend time with just yourself, thinking through all that's going on. We don't want to forget things. We don't want to get caught up in negative feelings and forget what has gone right. This can play out in so many ways. But what we really want is to fortify ourselves, our home, our family, and look for ways where, because we've been so busy, we may have let certain things slip, and you don't want to do that. This is a great time to make sure that you renew your contracts, so that something doesn't go unnoticed and then get canceled. So anything kind of like that, it's great for tying up loose ends, open-ended things that when we get very busy, we tend to things that we were working on get shoved to the back, and pretty soon they're so far back we actually forget about them and we might not ever get to wrap them up. So again, it's deep cleaning and just that whole rejuvenation of a time period when you can like breathe after a very busy time. And with, again, Cancer, this is home, family, your internal world. You don't want to let things go. So definitely take this time. That starts on the 29th. We're already in that initial shadow period, so you might be feeling very nostalgic. You may be already in that mode of cleaning out closets, or getting rid of the dust bunnies under the bed, the kind of reshaping and revisiting things that may have gotten pushed to the wayside. So we're kind of already in it. This is also a time period when, again, you may hear from people that you haven't heard from in a long time. And there's this, the I don't know how to say this because I don't want to come across fearful. I don't feel fearful about it. But um, if you've had like negative energy or falling out with someone in the past, you can feel very defensive if they were to come back. And you're gonna want to be on the defense with certain things that may come up. It could be old memories. You may run across something old that actually brings back some negative memory, and you might immediately feel the need to protect yourself again. The great thing is Cancer is where our safety is. That's our home. That's our family, the people that love us. So we are surrounded by a life that we built where we do have some protection, and that's good to remember. So anything old from the past that may feel like it puts you on the defense, it's not necessarily wrong. You may not be inclined to want to hear from someone that you had a falling out with. But just remember that you have the tools, you have the surroundings, you have what you need to set good boundaries. And just because someone comes back doesn't mean that you are the same person that you used to be. The situation is the same that it used to be. It isn't. And so it's important to stay grounded, but also trust that, you have what it takes to hold your boundaries, defend yourself. It's that kind of energy. It's that play there. So I kind of like it. Um, Another thing that's happening right around the same day is there is a full moon in Capricorn on the 29th. And that is also kind of potent. I wouldn't be surprised with the way the news is right now that Capricorn is an energy of authority. And so you might be watching for this full moon is probably going to highlight where certain authority in our world, whether it's in politics or corporations or even the authority of like the religions and the moralities that we follow, the things that we hold up on a pedestal as like the rule or the law, those things we may see very clearly through this time period because we are close enough to the full moon that we'll probably see a lot of that this week. Where authority is not working for like the masses. It's something where the structure and the authority is not actually taking care or helping the people that it's supposed to help. Now, it's super easy to point to politics or the government but it's bigger than that even. I shouldn't say bigger, more encompassing than that. It can be on every level. It can be the parent-child relationship. And, parents that have kids that are growing up into adulthood, the authority isn't necessarily gonna work the same way anymore because The adult child has more authority now. They know better in their life what works for them than what the parent does who's like outside of them. So it can also be, again, like I said, the certain authorities that we give power to in our own lives. So what we think is moral, what we think is right, may not work for us anymore. And so this full moon will probably highlight some of that. So definitely watch the news. I'm sure there's going to be, a blue million stories on the news about corporations and different companies not working out. I mean, there's the tussle all the time, but it could be very highlighted in front of our faces. And you may have things happen in your own world that show you that the way that you have set rules in your own life are just not working for you anymore. In your own relationships, who has the authority and is it still working? So the highlighting of it goes nicely with the retrograde of Mercury, because Mercury retrograde, Mercury is how we speak. So, on a very personal level, to have the Mercury retrograde happening at the full moon in Cancer, I mean, full moon in Capricorn. Capricorn and Cancer are polar opposites on the zodiac wheel. So, the energies are they're on the same continuum, but they're just opposite ends of that. So, this could be a lot of internal dialogue with yourself, right? Mercury is asking you to speak differently, evaluate the self-talk, evaluate the way that you deal with your own internal authority, why you do things, what you think is right and wrong, and to be conscious of that. Because I think that with the full moon in Capricorn, certain things could show up where this is a great time to like change your mind. It's like a realization moment. It's kind of this aha moment of, this isn't working. The rules I have set for my own life are not working. So that's a long way of saying this is a great time to change habits. This is a great time to recognize that certain habits are not helping you. And it involves a lot of the self-talk, the way that we speak, the way that we think, catching that and changing it. It's a really great time here at the end of June to question some of that, because it is going to be kind of in your face, in a good way, for the personal stuff. And of course, anything that's happening on the inside is happening on the external, and that's why I said the news is probably going to be full of those kind of stories, because it's kind of happening across the board. So just interesting to watch for that. This is a great time to reframe our ideas of authority and what we need going forward, what hasn't worked for us, and how we need to kind of change what we've outgrown. It's more just of an outgrowing thing, where now we're setting up in a time in 2026 of starting to establish new ways of being. But first, we kind of have to see very blatantly how things are not working. That didn't come out the clearest, so just bear with me. I haven't made a video in a while. But then the next thing that is happening is Jupiter. That's the planet of expansion. Jupiter has the energy to expand any area that it touches. So it's going into Leo. And this is an interesting transit because it's really positive. Um, Leo is about creativity and expression and romance, and it's go big or go home, kind of like, look at me, it's the sun energy. It's our vitality and what makes us, being on display. You can equate the character of Leo to like a stage actor, in a way that it's not just like performance at a superficial level. It's a performance where we're putting out there what we want to be seen. It's a very visual out there energy, and it's bold and it's courageous to do that. And with Jupiter being in Leo, that energy is just amplified in a very positive way. But nothing in astrology is good or bad. It's both. It's all of it. So this is a time period where I want to say, I'll say the good, but there are things to watch for and remember. So this is a time of great creative courage, I would say. If you have projects, if you really are going, you're going to have a drive for success, with Jupiter and Leo. And if you have been afraid to be bold and just do something, put something, so personal out there, this is a great time to do that. And you will feel like it. Like the energy is going to support that. It's like a wave. I don't want to say momentum, because I'm saying the boldness. You're gonna feel that swell up. And it's a good time to go with it, because you do have, like, Jupiter is really lucky. So it's good. Romance and love of all kinds, can be bigger than life. And you can feel that generosity of the Leo energy. Um, Jupiter in Leo is probably expressed really well when we say, what you give multiplies. It not only comes back to you, but when you give with a generous heart to help, to love, to share, that energy just expands. It's kind of like when you light one person's candle, that person is going to light two more candles, and it's that expansiveness of when you do it. So the candle thing is good. That might be a fun ritual to do if you're into ritual work. Is not literally, I mean, you could with a candle if you wanted, but to take your energy and to pass along something positive. You might make it an intention to go out and I don't want to be cheesy and say smile more, but you could pass out a compliment, and you could try to spread that positive energy to other people that you know, and in your mind know that those people, you may have changed their day. And and you can imagine a world where your energy, I don't want to say infects other people, but yeah, kind of like, when you are positive, you give them something positive in their life, and then they feel uplifted. And so that game you can play with yourself, you're like mentally world building. And it's incredibly powerful to do that when you're trying, in a mindset kind of way, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we look at the world. It is sharing positivity, but not just in a fake way, in a being way, like the kind of energy that you embody. Now, the crazy thing here is that I have to put out there the negative side of that, because you are going to have this, like, this rush of wanting to be successful. Sometimes our need and want to be successful has a, like, retaliation kind of vibe to it, like getting back at people, I'll show them. So it's important to be really mindful of why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you want to do that? Because you're going to have the courage no matter what. But Jupiter does expand the negative. So if you're setting out with really negative intentions, you're doing so with Jupiter touching that. And I have to say, it's not that if you say one mean thing to one person, they're going to turn around and say a bunch of mean things to their friend. No, it's probably going to come back on you. So this is just a time where I I don't like using the word karma, but this transit has a karmic aspect to it, where what you put out comes back, and sometimes almost instantly. So you just want to be really careful of your motivations behind the actions that you take when Jupiter is in Leo, because you're putting it out there and it's going to be seen. So if you were going to gossip about someone, it's not going to just stay between you and one person. A lot of people are going to know that you were gossiping. And so that's what I mean by that expansion. It's just, this is that time. But overall, I would say this is a very lucky, positive time. And you should feel it. This is a transit I believe a lot of people will feel. And maybe this is why I love astrology. Um, none of us really know for sure, but if you could just suspend your disbelief, it can be really great for your psyche to think that you have Jupiter's energy of luck and expansion behind you, to build up your own confidence and courage and ride this good wave, because it is a positive one. Just know that, like with everything, it does have a slant, and it's all depending on where you're coming from. The other big thing here is, like, this is great. this is a great time period where you may see a lot of get rich quick kinds of things, right? Um, Jupiter, bold action, and expansion. If it's negative, it's just not going to work. This is going to be a colossal backfire. This is like not a time to buy into things that come from a negative motivation or just an untrue motivation. If you know something is going to take a lot of work, be excited about it and be determined and take that first step. But also don't forget that you're going to need to put the work in also. That's what Jupiter will reward. Um, you know, the whole I should just stop talking about it. Anyway, just be aware. Motivation counts in this time period with that transit, and it counts a lot. And then later into July, around July 3rd, is a really concerning conjunction between Mars and Uranus. And it happens every couple of years. It's not like it's so once in a lifetime thing. But what it is, it's a very tense, disruptive conjunction, and we will feel the energy of it a couple of days before, a couple of days after, and that is right through the 4th of July weekend. So the energy here is we may be prone, or we may see a lot of really rash decisions. Mars energy is our how we take action in the world. It's force. And Uranus is disruption. It's surprise and disruption, and those two together just make for things like a lot of road rage, a lot of bad decisions, people acting in really rash manners. And all I can think of are like fireworks and doing dumb things. And so it's important for me to just let you know to be extra cautious and careful. Again, you just want to stay grounded. You just want to pay attention and know what you're doing. When you're driving, this is a time period where traffic could get very backed up, and it could be very tempting to worry, explode. And what if you're running late? And with it being a Mercury retrograde, there's a good chance that there are going to be delays anyway. So I guess what I'm saying is, going into that conjunction, just be prepared for delays. Keep your cool head about you. Be really observant of your surroundings. Um, and try not to let your own temper get the best of you, your own fear get the best of you. This isn't a time to react out of fear. That's probably going to be a bad decision. So just stay calm, cool, grounded, use your common sense. Watch for other people not using their common sense, and know that this too shall pass. It's only a temporary moment. It just happens at a time when there's already going to be a lot of traffic on the road. There's already a ton of construction and delays. You throw in a huge celebrations, especially this year of all years. The celebrations are going to be huge. You throw in a bunch of alcohol and parties and people in circumstances they wouldn't normally find themselves in. And that's just a really chaotic mix that is just ripe for these kind of explosions of this conjunction. So, the more of us that can kind of stay grounded and aware and have a good time, it's just be an adult, be a grown up, and keep your head, keep your cool, keep your smarts, and have a great time with the celebration. But be aware that there is some extra energy under the surface at play here that could kind of amplify all of that. So, and again, not to scare you, this is just not to that conjunction around the 3rd. It's just not a time to be really reactive, whether it's anger or fear or assumptions. Sometimes it's not even so violent, externally, it's internally when we assume things. And then we get all bent out of shape about it, or we trust something we shouldn't because we're acting too quickly, we're acting too rashly. So just know that that will pass, and we'll get into mid-July and see how it goes. But I hope this was interesting or helpful. I know, again, I just haven't made these videos in a while, so I am really over talking things. But I think that whole June 29th through the 4th of July is an interesting time, a mixed bag of good, bad. All of it has the thread, though, of us staying grounded, calm, staying present with yourself, not getting too riled up about any one thing, and, seeing how we can make our individual worlds and our collective world, better, calmer, that works for us. So it should be interesting. I'd be happy to hear from you if you have any kind of wild stories happen. That would be, you're welcome to contact me. So thank you very much.